I believe this is a sign from God. It and it happened on June 23rd, 2012. First off, I'd like to apologize. I have a chest cold. If I cough, I'm sorry. But I have to do this now or it'll never get done in my own way. Lately, a lot of signs have been happening. And what's been happening in the past few weeks is I was working with the Bible Code computer program, and I came looking upon, there was the idea that there's a phrase in the Bible, he who overcomes will, get certain things from Jesus. And some people said, well, that word doesn't necessarily mean overcome. It could mean he who conquers. So when I looked up in the Bible Code the phrase, my name and conquers or conqueror, and I use my name just as a reference point in time, not that it has anything to do with me, but in a certain place in time. And of course, you're always looking for stuff that relates to you because maybe something will be important. But anyway, looking up conqueror, it seemed to reference the rapture. The word rapture was actually there, and there was other words like skylight and uplifting and upheaval and other certain things that refer to going up or being taken up. So it seems that the rapture would be a real event. And if anything like that was going to happen, I would have thought it would happen in the year 2040, because the year 2040 is featured quite prominently when you look in the Bible Code. So, but perhaps it's not so far off. Perhaps it's more imminent, such as July or September, October, or November of this year. Just possible, just maybe. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but could, from seeing things that are going on recently. Because in the past few weeks, I've been seeing people with missing arms, missing legs. I've been seeing shoes laying in the street. And here's what that people often refer, when they were referring to the rapture, would all perhaps make jokes and saying nothing's going to be left but their shoes. And to give you an example, once I started seeing some of these things, I took a couple pictures just last night. Here's a picture of a shoe just laying as I'm walking down the street. And the thing about shoes is that they're not going to last on the street too long. Somebody's going to pick them up and throw them away. So it's very odd to be seeing these shoes all the time. Here's another pair of shoes that somebody left laying in the street. So I find it very strange to be all of a sudden seeing shoes everywhere. And the thing about people without arms, sometimes you'll see beggars purposely on the street begging. But these people that I've seen, which are like 6 people without arms within the past 2 weeks, were not beggars. And the people without legs, I've seen even people with entirely no legs at all. And also, what's important is that I'd seen the word lose or lost start to show up in some of the codes I was working. And then on a Friday, I saw that a casting director for the TV show, The Biggest Loser, was having on Saturday, June 23rd, casting call in Chicago. Now this person, doesn't just cast for that show. She casts for other shows as well. And so the idea being is that in order to raise awareness about finding the cure for paralysis, using the Bible code, you find clues, is that it would probably make a great reality TV show, and that's what she cast for. And if I were to have a reality TV show showing how this was going to be done, I could get the attention of the people who have the power to start and stop wars, and they would see what I was doing, and perhaps they could come and help in the effort. And if they don't help in the effort, perhaps at least they will know it's going on because it's on TV, and then the people of the world will see it's happening. And as I say, I predict, or I believe, that the cure can be found within 1 year's time. Then perhaps the public would demand that there be no fighting from any country in the world for at least 1 year's time. And as progress went along, people would see that the cure was being found, and war would cease to exist in theory, in a way. Because what, as you may or may not know, some of these signs are suggesting that perhaps a great calamity is coming, a great catastrophe. It may be World War III. And so in order to avoid that, God is sending some signs and warnings. Don't go there. Don't screw things up. And that's why the rapture would come, and it makes sense that the rapture would come, because if there is going to be a great global calamity, that's what it says in the Bible, Jesus comes back and raptures up the believers so that they will not get harmed. Now, this woman has, because I saw the lost arms and the lost legs and the lost shoes, and all those things reflect body parts missing, such as in the rapture, the body of part of humanity would go missing. So I sent her an email, and I was saying, come with me, walk the streets, let's see if we see a sign from God. And that's when a friend had come over, and I had said, things are happening, let's go out, look for a sign, and perhaps this lady who was in Chicago, we would run into her. So 5 minutes after we walk out the door, literally, we see the man dressed as Jesus. And I took the picture so that this would be proof to you. Now, if this lady was with me, she would have seen that. And what better sign from God than a man dressed as Jesus? So, and then, strangely enough, on June 27, I had to take my van in to get recall work done. There was a spare tire underneath the van, and it was held on by a cable. And that cable could rust. So it was the recall notice was that they're going to change that cable so it won't rust, and the tire won't fall off and go missing. Less than 2 hours later, there was an ABC News story on June 27 called "New American Crime Wave," where thieves are stealing tires everywhere and leaving cars and trucks up on blocks, literally paralyzed. So here I am trying to get my van fixed so that I don't lose a tire, and and here tires are being stolen everywhere off of cars and trucks. Now tires are going missing, and a tire is like a leg or a foot or a shoe, or yeah, that's right, or a shoe. And if you don't have your shoes or you don't have your legs or feet, you can't go anywhere. So in theory, the new crime wave of tires going missing fits with the shoes and the legs, and as a representation perhaps of the rapture. And there I am trying to cure paralysis, so that when paralysis is cured, people can walk, and if cars had tires, they could move. And here I am trying to keep the tire on. So in the way that this is all a sign as well, that in real life I'm trying to stop a calamity, and by helping people walk, by perhaps proving to the powers that be that God does exist, and that He doesn't want you to be causing a worldwide catastrophe. So that was June 27. Now here is an example that some people think that I'm not trying at all to make bring these things about. And this is ex-Senator Bill Bradley, who ran for president, and he's written a book recently called "We Can All Do Better," and he was at the Chicago Public Library, and I went to that event and gave him a letter describing what I was trying to do, and offering him to have him get involved, and trying to get the powers that be involved and find the cure for paralysis. And he signed the book. My name's Jimmy, and he signed it. Here's him signing the book as evidence. This is in May. You could look it up. And here's a little close-up for you. Me going to a senator, trying to get something done. Now, this lady has not replied, but you might say, oh, you could have taken that picture anytime. Well, there's evidence of the emails I sent her saying, come with me and the sign may happen. Then I sent this letter to her, but there's going to be cameras all around this street corner, and there's a bank right behind me as I'm taking this picture. There are pictures to verify that this man was walking down the street. You'll see me coming up from the opposite side, crossing over, and then me with another person taking a picture of him. So this is verified evidence that can be found to prove that this happened when it happened. I went back outside later to try to find this person, to find out who he was, but he was gone. Now you may say, oh, this happens all the time in Chicago. This is an everyday thing. It's no big deal. No, this does not happen every day in Chicago. Before 2005, this man or a man like him was walking around just like Jesus. But not all the time. But once in a while you might see him. But you'd have to be out in the street, and you'd have to be lucky to see him. Now, I haven't seen this man or a person like him dressed like Jesus in Chicago since 2005, 7 years ago. And as I've said, I told my friend, things are happening, let's go outside and see what happens. And less than 5 minutes later, this man shows up dressed like this. Now, this is not the first time I've said this to this other person, where we went out before in 2009, and I said, come along, you may see something might happen. And a few things did happen. And but it's a rare thing for me to go out looking for signs, and only if a lot of things are happening do you go looking for signs. And even at first you don't realize there's signs. When I first started seeing a person with a missing arm or leg, I said, oh, that's too bad. And all of a sudden, when I've seen six person with no arms, I said, what's going on here? And and people with no legs, 4 of those or more. And when I sent this email to this woman, there's a story also on ABC News about a man climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and with no legs at all. And he climbed it 80% of the way. And they've got pictures of him on top of the mountain with no legs, celebrating. So how often when I send an email to a person saying I'm seeing signs of people missing legs and limbs, and then I see in the same night the person climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So hot and heavy are these signs coming in. Now, I said I hadn't seen this guy since 2005, and it's been 7 years. And this kind of sign is important because of what had happened before and what it represents. Back in 2009, or now this is where we go to why I would do what I do, or did. Look, I was looking up in the Bible code, and certainly I'd been seeing some references to finding God. And Hebrews chapter 11:6 says, "You see, it's impossible to please him well without faith, because whoever wants to come to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who eagerly search for him." So you make God happy by searching for him. Yeah, and you have to believe that he exists just to be able to do that. So by searching for him, you're showing your faith. Now, I had looked up the term with my name and the Acropolis, because in the Bible code, you see Greece a lot. And it is probably kind of no surprise that Greece seems to be tied with the future of the euro and the collapse of the euro. And I would say to the powers that be, do not let Greece go down and fail, because that may be, well, the tribulation, the countdown to Judgment Day, when Greece goes down. And that's how important Greece may be. And in Psalm 42, where my name in the term Acropolis is found, it says, "To the chief musician, a maskil for the sons of Korah, as the hart or deer longs for water streams, so does my soul long for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? My tears have been my bread day and night, while they, other people, continue to say to me, 'Where is your God?'" When I remember these things, I pour out my soul, how I went with the multitude, leading them in the procession to the house of God, with a voice of joy and praise, a crowd keeping the festival. So here's this talk about where's God. You're searching for God, and this is under the Acropolis. And of course, Greece is mentioned many times in the Bible code, and perhaps the last place Jesus was seen was on the island of Patmos, talking to John, giving the book of Revelations. So if the last place Jesus was seen in the Bible is a Greek island, maybe Greek is important. And looking for God, there's 3 other phrases that I've found working with the Bible code that express that you're supposed to search for God. And these are not all of them, but these are some important ones. It says, "And the Lord shall scatter you among nations, and you'll be left few in number among nations, where the Lord shall lead you. And you shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. But if from there you shall seek the Lord your God, you shall find him, if you seek him with all your heart and all your soul. When you are in distress, and all these things have come upon you," and then here's the key term, "in the latter days," which would mean the end times, which is possibly now, "if you turn to the Lord your God, you shall be obedient to his voice. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not forsake you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them." Now, this is perhaps in reference, of course, to the Jews, but it's also, I believe, believers in Jesus and God. So we go to another quote here. "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you shall call upon me, and you shall go and pray to me, and I will listen to you, and you shall seek me and find me, when you shall search for me with all your heart, and I will allow myself to be found by you, says the Lord." Now this is important because it's talking about a future and a hope and thoughts of peace. And when we come to the next phrase, we see that peace is a new expression on the lips and refers to God coming back into the people's lives. It says, "For thus says the high and lofty one who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy, I dwell on the high and holy place. Yet with him also who is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the spirit of the contrite ones. For I will not contend forever, nor will I always be angry, for the spirit and the souls whom I have made should faint before me. For the iniquity of his covetousness was I angry, and struck him. I hid myself, and was angry. And he went on perversely in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways, and will heal him. I will lead him also, and bestow comforts on him and his mourners. I will create a new expression of the lips. Peace, peace for him who is far off, and for him who is near, says the Lord, and I will heal him. Now, Ecclesiastes, I believe, had said in the Bible that there is nothing new under the sun, and yet peace is a new expression of the lips. And when Jesus comes and returns and the kingdom of God comes, there is peace and no more war, and men do not learn to make war anymore. So, but it says that God was angry, and he hid himself. And so, when people say, "Where's God?" well, it seems to be that God has become angry, and he is hiding away. But in the latter days, if you're calling for him, you will search for him, and you can find him. And so that's one of the reasons to go. Well, I went to Greece. But when going to Greece, let's see here. It was in September. It was fall of 2009 that I was going to try to find somebody to go to Greece with me, because money is always tight, and perhaps someone would like to come and have a religious experience who had a lot of money, and perhaps, even though it wasn't that much money, perhaps they'd like to help pay my expenses, and we'd go as a little team and see what happened. And as I was walking around, I walked the streets of Chicago with a T-shirt, and this was the T-shirt. Who will take me on a pilgrimage to Greece? And I walked for a few weeks during the fall, and maybe one person asked a question about it, but that's it. And nobody seemed to be interested. Now, I couldn't come right out and say, I couldn't come right out and say, perhaps on the shirt, why I believed what was going to happen on this pilgrimage, and that we're going to see God, because that's hard to put on a shirt. But anyway, as I did this, and here's an example of a picture that I took just yesterday, is that as I was doing my walks, I would see bridesmaids groups or couples who had just gotten married. And I remember that when I told you I went with this one person before and said we're going to look for signs, and we did see signs. Well, we saw a bride and groom taking pictures near the beach, and they were all dressed in white. And usually what you'll see is a groom dressed in black, but this groom was dressed in white. And biblically, I believe everybody's being dressed in white. I'm trying to expand this picture so that you could see up close. Okay, here we get a little bit of a better picture here. Here you go. There you go. That's on Michigan Avenue near the Chicago River. And if I go on walks, usually I'll go and walk to the river and turn around, heading from north to south. So there you go. This is what I was seeing much of, and unusually high amount in the fall of September 2009. And I said, what is this all going on about? And when Jesus returns, or when the end times come, Jesus is coming like the bridegroom, and the believers are his bride. And so biblically, it's fitting with the bride. Now here's just some pictures of where that group was standing, and perhaps they're waiting to go on a boat ride. but it's just to give you an idea of when I go walking, what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing. This is near the Chicago Tribune Tower, like a plaza. And there's no church around, so these people are not going to the church. And here's the Chicago River. And this is where you'd walk up to the water and stand next to a railing and look over. And you walk across the street and see this again. Here's another plaza that's across the street from the girls. And this is just walking up and down Michigan Avenue to give you an idea of just the amount of people, what the sidewalks look like, and things that you might see if you're trying to look for signs from God. What you would look at. Here's the water tower on North Michigan Avenue that did not burn down in the Chicago fire. And there, on that same day I was taking those pictures, I found that a shoe right my way. Now, what this is that also what was happening in 2009 was that glasses of water were falling, things were falling and breaking, glasses, and the earth is supposed to be having labor pains, like a woman having a baby, and the new baby is the new age and the new kingdom, and Jesus is returning. At this particular thing, I was by a friend's house. A maintenance man knocked on the door and said, "Is your water running?" Because in the apartment below, in the bathroom, the ceiling had fallen in. Water was falling and breaking. That day, I went to a hotel, and in the hotel room, in their bathroom, was the ceiling. And obviously water was dripping and caving in the ceiling. So on the same day, the ceiling's caving in by my friend's house. I go and a ceiling is caving in the bathroom. And, if you're going to go into court of law, if you keep a diary of what's happening, that's as evidence. And these pictures are like evidence that things were falling and breaking. Now, also at this time, as I was walking in September and August of 2009, Victoria's Secret apparently put up a bunch of wings all over the downtown streets. And, of course, these look like angels' wings and also, in a way, butterfly wings. And butterflies supposedly represent change and also perhaps represent the coming of Jesus. So I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I'm seeing all these butterflies or angel wings. And you can go back in this video and pause and look at these wings and these pictures that I took. So, what was I seeing in September 2009? I was seeing brides, a huge amount of brides and bridegrooms, and I was seeing butterflies and these big giant wings up and down the avenue. I was seeing things were falling and breaking. And also, there was lots of spider webs. And I says, what's the deal with all these spider webs? And on September 26, 2009, while the Pope was giving a speech, a spider came down and landed on him and was crawling on him. And what that necessarily means, I'm not sure. But, as I told you at the time, I was seeing all these spider webs. Now, the thing about going to Greece, and I had asked a friend of mine who I hadn't seen since high school, who was Greek and spoke Greek, and he had. I went to him, and he seemed like he was well off, and I gave him the opportunity to come along with me and go to Greece. And because he spoke Greek, I thought that would be helpful. Well, he turned me down cold. Probably thought I was crazy. And I told him, you may see a man dressed as Jesus as an example of a kind of sign you may see. And because I've told you that before 2005, that there was the guy walking around the streets dressed as Jesus. And so, if I have said in other videos that if I meet with the most powerful people on earth, that there may be a miracle of some kind, or they will see, or any other person who can help in a major way, they may see a sign, and this is the type of sign they may see. And I might not be able to cure paralysis, perhaps, if God does not want that to happen. But at least these powerful people, if they'd gone and take a walk with me, just as I said on June 23rd, and they would see this guy, they would get to know what I was talking about. I say bring your best and brightest, the most powerful people. Take a look at the Bible code, see that it works, see that I don't make these things up. But as I always say, and people may think I'm crazy, that you will see a sign, and here is what it is. And so I told my friend, this is what you might see. And he blew me off. Now, I used that specific example because I had perhaps seen this guy before. And when I went to Greece, I didn't know it was going to happen. But when I went, I left. I was going to get there on the 12th or 11th, and after I left, Icelandic volcano erupted, and air travel was stopped. So I would not have been able to fly on any other day. Just after I left, this volcano goes off, and all plane service in Europe is stopped. So I get there, and I stay about 10 days. And if I want you to notice some of these dates here, that they keep happening around the 11th or 12th of April, and they also happen around the 22nd to 24th of September, and even June. Now, when I went to Greece, and I was there by myself, and it was the very last day, April 22nd, 23rd, where I was waiting in the airport to return home. And I thought, well, so be it. Nothing happened in Greece. Well, guess what, folks? A guy dressed like Jesus is walking in the airport at midnight, or 11 o'clock to midnight, or to 1 o'clock. He's walking around in the Athens airport. And I was stunned. And I thought, man, if this Greek guy had gone with me, I'd go talk to this guy, because it's very likely perhaps he just speaks only Greek. And so, it was going to be real awkward if I went up to him and tried to talk to him and he didn't speak English. And I was kind of stunned anyway and freaked out by seeing this. And I says, and is it really, maybe it's Jesus himself? And I thought, well, if it's really Jesus, then he'll come and he'll talk to me. I don't have to go talk to him. I flew all the way to Greece. At least he can walk over to me here. So he didn't, and I didn't take a picture of it because I thought it would be rude. But of course, and that was in April 22nd, 23rd of 2010. On June 23rd, 2012, that's when I saw a guy dressed like Jesus in Chicago, and I took a picture of him. So you see how the date, the 23rd, is involved for some reason. And, I hadn't seen a guy dressed like Jesus, and I don't usually see a guy dressed like Jesus, but not since Greece. And I went to Greece looking for a sign from God, and I saw a guy dressed like Jesus. And I was looking for a sign from God that day on June 23rd, and I saw a guy dressed like Jesus. So you see, I'm not making these things up, that these things are happening. And if you saw them, then you'd have reason to believe too. And the airport, if they have video of that day, April 23rd, 2010, it's there. And I know the video has got to be sitting somewhere for June 23rd, so all this can be proved. Now, it was April 23rd, 2010, and then in September, through the 22nd, 24th, 2010, April's the 4th month and September's 9, almost 5 months to the day, that's when I got the sign suggesting that I could cure paralysis and spinal injuries using the Bible Code computer program. And I was out camping, and that day was the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles, or tents. It celebrates when the Jews were wandering for 40 years in the desert, and they were in temporary shelters. So there I was camping when I saw this sign from God, and it was on the first day of the Feast or Tabernacles and Tents. Someone has suggested that the possible birth date of Jesus would have been during the Feast of Tabernacles, or perhaps the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. So it'd be interesting if that was really Jesus' birthday. So at that time, then a year later, on April 11th to 12th, 2011, I put a message on a website for a radio host to assist me in finding a cure for paralysis. And some people criticized me, and in my responding to them about, I said that they didn't understand the Bible, they didn't have an understanding of what's written. 10 hours later, the radio talk show host says almost exactly the same words that I used, and he was saying the words like riddles and what's that word for comprehension? I don't know. Anyway, there's some very words you don't use every day, and so to me that was a sign to prove to the guy, look, dude, I just said this, and then you're saying it 10 hours later. Hey, help me. So that was April 11th, 2011. So you see, in April 2010, I go to Greece, on April 12th, and then around April 11th, 12th, 2011, 1 year later, there's the incident with the radio host. Then, what had happened was that when I was asking people for, what happened was on October 13th. And once again, here we have the 13th. I had a first ever time possible prophetic warning dream from Jesus. And you could look at other videos to see what that was about. But in the warning dream from Jesus on October 13th, which was also the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, 1 year earlier in 2010, on the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles, I got a sign from God suggesting I could cure paralysis and spinal injuries. Then 1 year later, on the Feast of Tabernacles, I get this warning dream from Jesus. And I tell you, I don't get dreams. It was probably the first ever dream with Jesus in it. And I don't dream much at all, usually at all, and never about religious things. And in the dream, Jesus warned, for every 5,000 Christian martyrs killed, a city shall be destroyed. The first, Pittsburgh. And then the second thing that was expressed was, they will ask you, standard against me. So there was two messages, that Christians are going to be being persecuted, but that also a city shall be destroyed, the first, Pittsburgh. And there's been rumors lately that of multiple cities being attacked in some terrorist way as I speak. And so I wanted to show how the Bible code showed a code reflecting that Pittsburgh could be threatened. And I wanted to make a video of it, but for 4 months I was delayed putting a video out, and I was very upset about it and agonized. And a date was coming up when I believed that something might happen, and that would be during the sign of Taurus. And so I had to finally force myself to put the video out. But let me say one thing first, that for the Hebrew, the word for killed is a single word, and it also means robbed or looted. Now, specifically, it was expressed to me in English, the word killed. But it is possible that these people may not be killed. Perhaps they will be robbed or looted as Jesus comes like a thief in the night, and perhaps when this destruction comes, perhaps the rapture happens at the same time. So it may be that the rapture happens as Pittsburgh is destroyed. And so well, now, if you knew what I knew and experienced some of the things I have done, and that I couldn't explain to all, and I try to keep a lot of things private, I was trying to warn the public before April 20th to get the word out about that if Pittsburgh were to be destroyed, that the Bible code suggested that this was a linchpin event that could lead to great catastrophe in the world, and maybe World War III. And I thought it could be April 20th or through the sign of Taurus, April 20th through May 20th. And what I did not realize and did not know at the time, that the 8th Hebrew month, which is usually known as Cheshvan, is also known as Bull, B-U-L. And so I'd only thought, well, because the Hebrew word for Taurus is also ox and bull, and I thought that, well, either it's referring to a certain date or it's referring to that time period of Taurus. And little did I know, as I said, that there's a Hebrew month called Bull. And that is this year, it's going to be October 15th through November 15th, 2012. So something may happen in that time period as well. But I had to tell the people and try to warn the public, knowing what I know, so that I could stop some possible destruction here. Now, I had to warn the people, and finally I did on April 11th, 2012. And I don't think anybody appreciates this, that what happened was that April 11th, I believe that God had stopped me from making this video, which I wanted to make in December 2011, and I felt anxiety and dread, and for 4 months, every day, wanted to make the video, but I couldn't. But finally, on the day that I do, it's April 11, and April 11 is, I think God held me back for a certain date, and that date celebrates the feast of Saint Antipas. Now, Saint Antipas, he's referred to in the book of Revelation 2:13, as a faithful martyr of Pergamon, where Satan dwells. Tradition says Antipas was martyred by being burned in a brazen, bull-shaped altar used for casting out demons worshipped by the local population. The feast day is April 11, and also Christians pray to this saint for ailments of the teeth. So, the date that I released the video to try to protect Pittsburgh from being destroyed, the word Pittsburgh, if you break it down, is perhaps relatable to Pergamum or Pergamon, however you refer to it. And so that if my contention was, if Pittsburgh was destroyed and the world calamity came from it, then that would be the seat of Satan, where Satan dwells or comes from, and in this case in the modern day, and leading to worldwide calamity. So Pittsburgh would be the modern day Pergamon. Now, the day I released the video to protect Pittsburgh, there's and I didn't even know there was a feast day to Antipas, and I didn't even know he was martyred by being burned in a bull. So God was sending some kind of message there, I believe, and he was honoring Antipas, and he's the saint of Pergamon, and here you see it. He's being burned by a bull. And when do I say the destruction for Pittsburgh could come from? Is during Taurus, or referring to the bull. Now, I was going to fast and do a walk to Pittsburgh in March, and each day before I was going to go on this fast, I had a dental problem, and I was going to try perhaps before March 1st and then before March 20, and the dental problem started the day before and then went away, and then the next day I was going to try to fast. The problem came back again. So apparently God was telling me, don't go to Pittsburgh, don't go on that fast, don't go on that march. And and here's what's Antipas known for, or people pray to him for. It's for ailments of the teeth. So here I am stopped, and I didn't know that at all. So here I put this video out. Instead of going on a march to Pittsburgh, teeth things hold me back, and here it's Antipas that has to deal with teeth. So also, I had discovered that the word pith means to kill by taking a spear and putting it at the base of the neck, or breaking the spinal cord. And Pittsburgh also is known for, on April 12th, 1955, Jonas Salk made a vaccine to prevent polio. Polio kills and paralyzes by inflammation of the spine. So Pittsburgh is kind of known for stopping paralysis. And here I am, I want to cure paralysis. And Pittsburgh is kind of known for that. And the big announcement comes on April 12th, 1955. And here, April 11th, my warning to Pittsburgh comes on just about the same date. And I had discovered also that there's the word stauros. And you can see the word Taurus, Taurus, and stauros, well, you take that S off and on each end, and you got Toro, Tauro. So here's Taurus referring to this, maybe the time of destruction, and here's the Staurus that Jesus was hung on, and there's apparently the word stauros, which was used in reference in the Bible, in the Greek, for Jesus being executed on it, and apparently it comes from from the verb histemi, to straighten up or stand, and for the same root from which comes the German stern, or the English stand. That's right, the English stand. Now, one of the warnings was Jesus said, "They will ask you standard against me." Standard. And here's the word stauros, is related to the English word stand. I find that quite interesting. But there was a controversy that saying Jesus was not hung on two pieces of wood, that Jesus was perhaps hung on really one straight pole, with his hands above his head and his feet below. And so it's perhaps somehow wrong to picture him on a cross, but know that he's on a pole. And so once again we have the image of a spear killing someone, and the word stauros is that word, which sounds like Taurus. And one of the interesting things about Nostradamus, if he's a for real character, actually did anything, was that he was a Christian, but he studied the Kabbalah because his father was Jewish, and they would do messages that would be secret messages that would do in backwards handwriting, But when he made some of his predictions, he supposedly predicted Hitler, but he called him Hister, Hister, and left out the L. And I think when using secret codes, sometimes the letter S seems to be put in as an extra letter for some reason. So looking at Storos and thinking that in hidden messages they add the word S or the letter S in there, and seeing the word Storos, and you take the S's away and you got Taurus, or one S away. Very strange. So then April 25th, 2012, I have a second dream, a second possible prophetic warning dream, the baby and the dying puppy dream. And what I realized was that there was a baby, there was a puppy, the baby was falling, and there was a black platform, and all these things represented the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And the black horse, the red, there was a dog, and he was an olive-covered dog, and he was like sick, and he was like dying. And he had 2 red wounds on his back. And there was a baby, and he was in a diaper, and he had, but he could walk. He was a toddler, and he had golden blonde hair. And he had chased, this dog ran, and he chased after the dog, and then he was standing on the edge of a black platform, and he kind of tipped over and fell down to the earth below from high up into mud. And of course, the baby represents Jesus, or the coming kingdom, or the victory of God. He's the white horse, and he's coming down to earth because he falls into the mud. And the mud has got, of course, water. It's a soupy kind of thing, and it actually sinks into it. And when a baby's born, the water breaks, and here's water involved. The dog, which was sick, he was the green or pale horse of disease. The 2 wounds on the dog's back were the red horse of war, and the black platform was the economic crisis of hyperinflation. And there was like actually 3 levels of black platforms, and they were like a glossy black, and that's why I wondered what's with these glossy black platforms. And also there was flowers in bloom, so it wasn't in winter, and it wasn't in fall. It was in spring or summer that this baby was tipping over and falling down. And that was April 25th. And I looked up, and there's a festival in the Roman religion called Robogalia. It's held on April 25th. Now remember, April 11th was St. Antipas's feast day, festival day. Then this second dream I get happens to be a Roman festival day. And what happens? They sacrifice a dog to protect grain fields from disease. Okay? Now in Revelation 14, 15, 16, it says, "Then another messenger came out of the temple, and he shouted this at one who was sitting on the cloud. Take that sickle and start bringing in the grain, because the earth is absolutely ripe, and it's time for the harvest." So the one who was sitting on the cloud lowered his sickle to earth and harvested it. Now they're talking about grain, meaning it's a metaphor for people. And so here I have a dream with a dog that represents disease and war. And the Romans kill a dog to protect their grain from disease. And so they're killing a dog to protect the grain, which is a metaphor in the Revelations for people. And so that's just on top of that it's a prophetic dream, and it's referring to the apocalypse. Now, that's April 25th. Now, as I said in the past few weeks, I've been seeing missing legs, missing shoes, missing arms. There's cars missing tires. And I see on June 23rd this guy dressed as Jesus. So I think that's pretty much it. That's everything up to now. I'll try to do another video showing the Jesus matrix. But this video I made so that people would understand kind of what's been happening, and that for some people to have a little faith and believe, at least in God, or that there is a God, and that here's these signs that have come, and you'll see, if you, as I said, you look at the dates, June 23rd, September 23rd, and the October's 12 and 11, and even October 13. So these are all reasons that I believe, and as I said, I could even say more stuff, but I can't due to time. And so for some people who said that they've lost faith, this is like a, kind of an answer to them, and that the reason God would want to cure paralysis is perhaps to stop a worldwide catastrophe. So it's not just trying to be a nice guy and cure paralysis, and also because Jesus shown his authority to forgive sins on earth by curing a paralyzed man. So, and since I believe Jesus has led me through these experiences, if paralysis is cured, I'm going to say Jesus is responsible. Whether if people think it's just a hoax or who knows what, I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed the little talk, and I hope you understand that if you saw what I saw, you'd perhaps be doing the same thing. Thank you.